Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor?
Yeah, I'd like, actually I have a question.
I've been coming to these board meetings for about 2 years, and I keep hearing about this. It has dragged on a long time, and Dr. Carroll certainly has my sympathies. My question is, we saw some of the project timelines. Can we see the project timelines for the future so we can see what the town hopes will happen and when it will happen? I know that those things are often subject to revision, but that would be something that would be very helpful if people could see. Thank you.
Unfortunately, when you're dealing with the federal and state government, things have a tendency to slow down. And they're much slower than I'd like, but as we see in Albany, things sometimes come to a halt. And we hope that that doesn't come along with this project.
I understand that, but any project should be managed with some type of timeline. I'm sure you agree.
We are.
I can give a couple, maybe bits of insight to that. The town has received word from the Department of State that there are 2 additional grants that have been awarded through the local waterfront revitalization program. That's the dollars that helps the town prepare not only the revitalization plan, but this form-based code. When those projects get going, there's required to be a work program agreement between the municipality and the state. There are 2 years worth of work program agreements that have been agreed upon between the town and the state that are waiting to have the final okay to be funded. One of them deals with improvements to Riverfront Park. One of them deals with streetscape improvements. So it's, at this point, it's really in the hands of the state, depending on when they decide to release those work program agreements to us. As kind of a tangential issue, there's also the money that the town received through Senator Schumer. That money is in the New York State Department of Transportation's budget. The town is in the process of selecting a consultant to help design additional transportation-related improvements in the hamlet, which I think will probably consist of streetscape improvements and parking, new public parking. I think Chad probably is going to mention that towards the end of the meeting, so I'll let him take care of that. But that's also something that's moving along. And the timetable for that is actually to have, I want to say, shovels in the ground to start doing things by the end of this year.
Is any of this in writing?
Oh, sure.
A timeline, a project line?
There is, not at this point. I mean, there's the town board approved a project proposal for that Schumer money that, yes, is in writing and yes, has a suggested timeline. You're certainly welcome to, Tracy has that in her office, and get that. But, you know, the timelines are only as effective as we can make them, given when the state decides to, how the state decides to work with us.
So there's no timeline for the entire project? Just
Well,
bits and
the
pieces?
entire project is a bunch of different components. So no, there's no timeline for the entire project because it's made up of a bunch of different components.
And what we're doing really is providing the structure for future development.
That's
We're providing guidelines. We're not going, the town of Cicero is not going to be developing the project per se. It's more or less going to be business driven. Is we're setting up the framework. These are the parameters to work under. We're encouraging new businesses.
Well, and sure, and part of it, the dollars are hopefully for the town to actually do streetscape improvements and create transportation-related improvements like parking lots. And you know, the work program agreements have been approved. You're in the process of selecting the consultant for what I kind of refer to as the Schumer funds. But no, there's no overall timeline for the project as a whole because it's a product of a bunch of different components.
So
these things as a whole will continue to drive new businesses in
That's
along
the
with
goal, yes.
current businesses. You can already see them redeveloping in that area, whether it's Dr. Carroll, I know he had some difficulties, but Judge Walczyk, and there's a lot of other business owners who have, redid their properties to make them, more palatable and things like that.
Yeah, I think overall it's intended to be both a public and private process.
I would just like to see this before I die.
I think we ought to apply for some stimulus money to employ, consultants, design people, administrative folks, I mean, we'd be employing a ton of people with stimulus money this way.
So anyone else like to speak in favor?
I think I'm in Deborah's corner. I'm not going to be around that long.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in favor? Give me your name and address, please.
Yes, I'm a Cicero resident and I'd like to comment on the plan. And in the past, I certainly have supported any work that we've done either in Brewerton, Bridgeport, or Cicero. I think Churchill said it pretty accurately one time that no good deed goes unpunished, and we spent $200,000, and I believe you accepted a plan around January of 2007. And if we're coming in a year and a half later and changing the code up there, why weren't some of those provisions looked at that point in time for the plan that we had accepted less than a year and a half ago? Comments from the board? I'm sure you weren't involved at the time. This was done by Kent and O'Brien, your engineers.
That was prior to the.
Actually, that plan
This is
did
part of the
reference the strategic
Right.
revitalization plan for Brewerton.
It did?
Yes, it did.
So, but it did give any of the form-based additional costs that we go through to change the zoning and
No, but it's
extra
contemplated in
engineering
there, so
design.
it was when the town board accepted it, they did so with the caveat that it should include references to the form-based to the Brewerton revitalization plans and the overall efforts for that area.
Well, that would be interesting, but I haven't been able to locate it. And
I don't think it was in the plan, I think it was in the town
Okay.
board's resolution approving
All right.
of the plan.
All right. How much additional money are we going to spend for the additional code changes? Anybody know?
Good question.
I think that the work program agreement, all the final bills have been submitted for that. I think it's a matter of just being reimbursed by the state at this point. I could be wrong about that, but that was my understanding.
But I guess the question again is, how much money is this going to cost the town, or it's coming out of the money that's coming out of the money that Washington's sending to us to get this?
Whatever the costs are, we'll get back with you. We'll have Gene research it for you.
The code is coming out of the original DOS grant, the 200 that we speak of. The code that we're talking about tonight came out of that. So really you got a plan and you got the code out of that.
And Councilor, you said something about the town not being in partnership in this, but technically you are, because even if you're not fronting the money, it's a group, or it's a project that's going to be both private and governmental. The government is actually providing the stimulus to bring in the private development up in the town.
I
So,
think what I said is a public-private partnership, I think is what I said.
Yeah, I mean, your infrastructure and codes and things of that nature, and then if businesses see that the town is investing in promoting and making those necessary repairs, whether it's the streetscape, whether it's sidewalks, whether it's whatever, of course you're gonna get new businesses to come in, looking at the area, along with the older businesses saying, well, yeah, I'm gonna invest X amount of dollars in my property, because, you know, it's gonna be good for business.
well, the time has come not only for Brewerton, but to take a look at Cicero at some point here in the future, take care of sidewalks, tip up curbing, shoulders that we need, so we don't have people walking out on the roads. Thank you.
Is anyone else who'd like to speak in favor?